relative units actually. So relative units, what the units we have is EM. So EM is one option is, so it is depending on the parent element, it will adjust the child element. So that is actually EM is. We have another option EX. So EX is nothing but it will affect the x height of elements font width actually, font width. That means it will adjust only the x. That means only the width will be adjusted. So it will not adjust the height. It will adjust only the width. So if you want, so the elements to be defined for width with regard to the root element. So then, so we can use CH. CH is for defined for width. So with regard to the root element, examples we will see, we will design them. And REM is nothing but, so it is used to define the font size to the root element size. That means the size is adjusted to the root element size. So depending on the root element size, it will adjust the size. So that you can define by using REM actually. That means you can see here, we have the options defined. Suppose we are adding some text here. Let's remove everything here. Yeah, we are adding some text here, some Amazon and some unordered list. It is having a class called some effects. Effects is the class. This is having a list item. So that is item 1. And in that list item, you have another unordered list. So we have another class called effects inner something. Okay. In that we have a list item. This is child 1. And this is the list item child 2. So child 2. And we have the items list item as item 1, item 2, and item 3 like this. Now generally, so this all looks normal. This all looks normal. So you can see the effects are normal. That is normal. All are normal. Now what I'm doing here is I will go to the styles and say body. And the body font size, so 20 pixel. Body font size 20 pixel, it will apply to all of them actually. Now I am defining effects class. Effects class font size is 2EM. 2EM means it is 2 times the body size actually. Effects, that means unordered list. It is 2 times the body size. It will affect for all of them. But the inner one, I want the body size. Inner one, I want the body size, this child. For the child, we have effects inner. Then I am writing here effects inner. Effects inner font size 1 REM I am using. So REM is root element. Root element size will be applied here. So that means it will not use the complete body size. That means the root element size will be applied. It will not be affected with this. It will use the root element size. Root element is 20. It will also be 20. If I am adjusting root to 30, that means body to 30, automatically this also will be little bit changing. So that is how we can define to root elements. Root element size. It will adjust to the root element size. That is what actually REM, defining effect with REM. That is the root element size, how you manage and configure the root element size. Another LN is used for line height of the element, line height of the element. For that, we need to see line heights and all. In the next level, we will see that. VW is viewport, actually 1% of the viewport's width. This also I will show you in viewport concept, because for that we have to learn what is viewport. In CSS, we will learn about that. Another one is VH, means 1% of the viewport's height. What is viewport? We will learn viewport height. Another one is min and max is there. So this is 1% of the viewports smaller. So we can say viewports smaller dimension. To understand this, we need to know what is viewport, so which you are going to learn in responsive design. So 1% of the viewports larger size, larger dimension actually. So we will see that. What is viewport? I will show you. Because without knowing viewport, we cannot implement this. So initially, you need to know these two, EM and REM. Others you will apply in various other categories of options. But what is the basic point? So you need to know here is when you are dealing with the dimensions, the height and width, if you want to affect based on parent, then you use relative. Otherwise, you can directly use the absolute units. So these are the basic units, how you define. So there is nothing like which one is popular, which one is used. It depends on which element height and width you are adjusting, where it is present, how much you want. Majority you will see people using pixels very much. So, and people using these points very much, because after pixels, points are the better one. And in absolute, you will see people regularly using EM and REM like options. In responsive designs, they use viewports, which you will see in responsive design. So very regularly used units are there. These are all the units, how you configure them. Next, after understanding the colors and units, you need to know about the cascading rules also. Cascading rules. So which are asked in interviews. That's the reason you should know. What are the cascading rules? Actually, if a set of effects are redefined for same element with the same type of selector, then according to CSS rule, the last set of effects are applied to element. According to the CSS rule, the last set of effects are applied. So that means if there are same selectors are there, then last set is applied. That is the first basic rule. That means, for example, we are defining So we are defining effects here. Means the point is simple. We have a heading. So Amazon shopping. I want to apply effect. So I said heading 2. So color is red. And again, same heading 2, the color is blue. So which is going to apply for heading 2? That means the same is repeated. So which is going to apply? Obviously, the last set of effects will be applied. That means obviously it is going to be blue. If the same is repeated, there is no error. Only the last set will be applied. That is the basic point first actually. So this is a simple general rule actually, general point. So that is one thing you should know. Okay. Second, another option is if a element have to choose between type selector and class selector, then it will always choose the class selector only, class selector. So now the always priority will be for the class selector. So for example, suppose we have defined here, this is type selector, color is red, that is the type selector. So suppose I am writing here dot heading, that is a class, and color as blue, okay. Now by default currently type selector, so it has to apply red, okay. Now I am using the class, so class as heading. That means, so we have a type selector latest. Before that we have a class and you are applying the class. So which one applies? Is it type or is it class? Which one it will give the priority? Wherever you write first priority is class. That means it is going to apply blue. So that means it is going to give the priority for the class. Give the priority for the class. So always if class is defined, then priority will be for the class. Wherever you may define, at the beginning or at the end, that is important. Another rule is if element is configured with both, so both ID and class selector, then always ID selector related effects are applied. That means between ID and class, which one first priority applied. So every time it will apply the ID only, not the class. That means class is having more priority or ID is having more priority. That is the point. So always ID will have the more priority. More priority. That means you see here. So I am defining. So anywhere. So hash, suppose head, and hash head color is green, and I am applying that here. So that is ID is head. Anywhere you can write, and you can see that it is going to apply green. That means it is not going to apply the class. It is going to apply the ID. If class and ID both are defined, the priority will be given for the IDs. That is what another important rule. So if element is configured with both, then the priority will be given for this. This is the priority. So that is the priority given for that. So if different styles are defined. So one more point here is suppose if different style attributes are defined in ID, class, and type selectors. So, and applied to any specific element, then what will happen is, then it will apply all of them. Attributes are defined, style attributes are defined. Then all styles are applied. Then all styles are applied to element. Only same name styles are not applied. Same name style attributes, attributes are overridden. So that is what happens actually. That means, for example, the concept is simple actually. Suppose here you see, suppose we have a class. In the class selector, we are having so some border as 2 pixel solid black. I defined that. Okay. In the ID, so we have defined, in the ID we have defined background color, some yellow. And here we defined text align center. Now see here, for heading 2, type selector is giving center alignment, and class is giving the border. Okay, ID is giving background. Now all are using colors only. Now all effects will be applied, but which color will be applied? Can you tell me which color will be applied? So the color is repeated. If any attribute is repeated, then it will override. Then which color will be applied for our heading? Which color will be applied for our heading? So green color will be applied for heading because ID is having more priority now, and all other effects will be applied. You can see that all other effects are to be applied. But here you can observe that. So when you are defining the effects, here, so in this, so the dot head, so it is not using the background color. So it is not configuring the background color. It is not having that background color. And you can observe that border is applied, but the text effects are not applied. That means text align is not applied. Why? Because here one more point is all will be applied, but according to the situation you have to configure them. That means we need to keep them in a correct order, also important here. Because what happens is, so all have to apply actually, but the problem is why is not applied, because the order is also taken care when you are applying all of them actually. All of them. Order means, suppose see here, I am defining here, the first option is, so we configured, so dot heading. So this is a class selector. So color is blue. Okay, that is blue. Okay, and text align. So is center. So that means you can see that. So that is applied here. Fine. And I am using a heading 2. And here I defined color as red. And I am defining border as 2 pixel solid and red. And you can see that red color is not applied. So, but border red is applied. Font color is not applied because class will dominate. Okay. Then I am giving hash head. So for this I defined, so color as green. green. And you can see that the green color is applied. And I am defining as a box shadow. I am defining box shadow. And some box shadow, I am applying some, so 2 pixel, so 3 pixel, 4 pixel, some red. I'm applying the box shadow, and you can see that is applied. Now I am applying some option like, so background color, some yellow, the background color yellow, it is applied. Here the point is all effects will be applied, but generally when you are applying the effects, suppose see here, I'm removing this from here, yellow, okay, and I'm removing this here, cut it, you keep above. So where you keep the effects, it doesn't matter actually. So you see now, still it is working fine, no problem. That means this order is not important. This order is also not important. Only important is whether you are repeating them or you are defining new effects. If any effect is repeating, then that effect will be overridden according to the priority. If not repeating, the effects will be applied. So effects will be applied. So that means all effects can be applied from ID, from class, from type. Only the point is any effect which is additionally rewritten, that effect will be overridden according to the priority. What is the priority levels? What is the priority levels? So first priority is for first priority. So first priority is for which selector will give the first priority. So first priority is for ID. Second priority is for class, right? And third priority is for type. So according to the priority levels, it will apply, it will configure. That is the priorities. This is the basic rule. Generally, these type of questions are asked in interviews. That's the reason we need to know, because they will ask what will happen if I apply ID and class, both of them. Can we apply all of them? Such questions will come. That's the reason we need to be aware of this. How do we deal with this? This is actually how we implement. So we implement the rules, CSS rules. That is CSS rules actually. So understanding the CSS rules, these are the basic CSS rules. Another important, after understanding the CSS rules, you need to know about another point, that is inheritance. So inheritance in CSS. Inheritance in CSS. So this is also very important. These topics are important for interview based and important in designing also. Inheritance related rules are present. What is inheritance rules? That means actually inheritance is one of the key features of CSS, and the main feature of the main advantage is it allows extensibility. It allows extensibility. That means with extensibility means without rewriting. So we can reuse. That's what actually the inheritance concept is. So CSS provides special properties actually. CSS provides 4 special universal property values for controlling inheritance. CSS provides 4 different values. So for handling this actually, and every CSS property will accept these values. Every CSS property will accept these values. What are those values? So the values which are used for inheritance. Inheritance, every property can use those values. What are those values? Let's see. We have a value, inherit. Inherit is a value. Inherit is a value. What is inherit? So inherit is nothing but it adopts, actually, it adopts the parent effects. Parent effects. Inherit means it adopts the parent effects. We have initial. Initial means it defines the default style. That means before the effects, how it is the default style. And unset is used for, so it removes the effect. It removes the effects and adopt the default. Default. It removes the effects and adopts the default actually. And we have revert. Actually, revert, it swaps between parent and child effects actually. Switch between parent and child effects actually. That means child effects are applied to parent effects are applied to child. But one problem is it is not supported. So not supported for all browsers. So it will not work on all browsers. So better not to use it. But it is there. So, but we don't use this very much these days because it is not supported on other browsers. So CSS properties can use inherit, initial, unset like options. So what is the intention here? So how we can handle that here? So let's see one simple example to understand this. What is inherit and all this to understand? A simple approach we need to know is, suppose we have an ordered list. So in the ordered list, so we have a list item. So in the list item, we are defining the effects. So we are writing the options like this. Suppose in the list item, we have a span. In that we are defining some para 1 or item 1, item 2, something. Now this is having list item is having a class as some para 1. So we are configuring like this. That means we have an ordered list. Inside the ordered list, we have list item. List item have a span. In that span, we are applying some option. I will copy that. So I will use a few items like para 2 and para 3, that is the class, and this is para 2 and para 3. These are the options. So now I want to apply the effects. See, I am writing here li. So list item, color as blue, something. Then you can see that all the list items color will be blue. That's fine. Color is blue. Now for para 2, so for para 2 dot para 2, that is class. For second paragraph, I will put color as initial. We are using the value initial. Initial means, so before the color blue is applied, what is the color? That is the initial color. Initial color is black. That means before blue is applied, what was the color for that particular element? It will get that initial color. Now, that means it will be black. And for para 3, so we are defining color as unset. Color as unset. So color as unset. So color unset means, So what it will do? Unset means it will remove the effects and it will set it to initial. If it is removing and is setting to initial, it looks like initial only. So many people have a confusion. Sir, it is like initial only. Na? Yes, of course, it is like initial only. But the point is, it is removing the effects and applying initial. Actually, it's not initial directly. It is removing effects. So in future, if you want to remove effects for any element, then you should not use initial. You should use unset. So initial means at get the base effects and use them. Initial means so get the primary effects and use them. And unset means remove them. Remove them. So we have initial. So we have unset. Now, for example, suppose we are using para 1. So para 1. So para 1 have a span. Beside it, we have a span. And this color is using inherit. We are using inherit. That means when you define inherit, that means you are saying that inherit the parent. Then you can see that. So para 1 will use the parent. Inherit. It inherits is nothing but it will use this one. So that means if this is red, then what happens is that span will inherit that red and it will apply the red. That means directly this is inherited by that span and it is applied. Span is applying that color. It is inheriting it and it is using it. So we have an inherit, we have an initial, we have an unset. We have an unset. So these are the basic things. These are the basic things. These are the basic things. So that means when you are trying to reuse the effects, when you are configuring and trying to reuse the effects, then you can manage this. So you can manage this. So instead of writing them again, writing means all the property, you just use inherit. But property name you have to write. You can do one more technique actually. Another option is actually you can use the mechanism of there is an option called all. Actually what you can do is you can define all as property, all as CSS property actually, property to apply all effects of parent. That is another mechanism. Actually, in real-time projects, what happens is, in real-time projects, we don't prefer, generally in real-time projects, we don't prefer using, technically we don't prefer using the concept called generally inherit rewriting of effects actually. That means we don't prefer using of rewriting the effects. In real world projects, we use a concept called SAS and less, which I will tell you after dealing with JavaScript, we will learn because it is programming. So we don't try this inherit initial regularly. Why? Because we have a more better way to deal with that. So that is SAS and less for reusability and all. Actually, if anybody asks like how you can make your CSS more reusable, so you can handle CSS dynamically. So then generally, if you have to deal with that, usually what you need to do is we need to go with SAS and less like concepts which will allow reusability and all, right? But only few effects you want to apply, you can try from here. Only few effects you want to apply, you can try from here, right? So all is used as a property. So like, for example, what is the purpose of all, how it is going to handle that effect is so simple. So what you can do is, suppose we are trying to apply effect here. So let's keep one option here. Suppose we have a paragraph that is para 1. and we have another paragraph and class as effects. And this is para 2. Para 2. Okay. And for paragraph, so we are writing some effects. So background color is equal to red something. And we are defining color as white. Okay, border as 2 pixels solid and black. Something like this we define. Okay. And these are the options defined. Now, wherever paragraph is there, it will apply that. Paragraph is there, it will apply that. Now, I don't want the effects to apply for second paragraph. For second paragraph. That means then what we do is, so we call that effects class that is used to access the second paragraph. All effects you can set to unset. That means remove all the effects. Whatever effects it is acquiring, remove all the effects and unset, then it will not apply for the second paragraph. That means you can simply remove all the effects. All is a property which is used to access all the effects of the parent. You can inherit all the effects. So it will inherit all the effects, right? And it will unset the effects. It depends on the requirement you can configure. Inherit or unset, you can configure and use it. So that means it is going to apply. So depending on that, right? So we can manage. So this unset, right? So usually, so unset, it will remove the effects, and all is a property which is used to deal all of them. Now, sometimes you will have a question like few I want, few I don't want. So then how to do, sir? That is the reason for that you have to use few you want to apply, few you don't want to apply. Then you have to go with SAS and less like concepts. You cannot try that with general CSS. For that, we have to use the concepts of SAS less like options. CSS pre-compilers we need for them, right? So, but this is the inheritance technique. You can inherit, you can set to initial, and you can unset. These are very important. So, especially while learning about the inheritance, right? How we can deal with the inheritance. So, this is the basic rules of CSS. CSS selector, CSS unit, CSS colors, which one it will apply. So, these are all the rules. Once we know these rules of CSS, now next important, we have to learn some effects in the CSS. And to understand the effects in CSS, so we have to start working with the effects. Let's see how we can work with the effects. So what are the basic things, how we can deal with the effects? Let's see how we can manage and deal with the effects. So usually to start working with the effects, first as a CSS designer, you have to know about the CSS box model. This is important. Actually, everything in CSS has a box around it. Actually, everything in CSS have a box around it. Understanding boxes is important for designing layout, right? So box model is important for designing layouts. Layouts are nothing but the structure of our page. We call this as box model. Usually, box model is very important for a CSS developer. Box model comprises of 4 important things. So what are those 4 important things? So box model actually comprises of 4 important points. One is we have a box model contains, so a content box. It contains a content box. we have a content box, and we have a padding box. We have a padding box. We have a border box, and we have a margin box. These are the boxes. So that means generally content box means, so content box is nothing but this is the location where you keep your content. So where you keep your content. So that means actually it is the area where you keep content. That is the area where you keep the content. Actually, this content box can be defined with height and width. It can be defined with the height and width. It can be defined with height and width. That is the content box actually. And padding box, so it is actually space around content. The space around content is the padding. So, and it is controlled by using padding. We have a border box. Border box is nothing but, so it is a box around the content or padding. It is the box around the content or padding. If there is padding, around the padding. If there is no padding, around the content. That is the border. And margin box is nothing but, so it is the outmost layer. And this outmost layer that wraps around the border box, wraps around the border box. That means outside the border box, outside the border box. So space is called margin. Outside the border box, space is called margin actually. That is what we define actually, we configure actually. So let's see how we can do that. The space is defined actually. So technically what happens is, so generally means a basic design I will show you here. What is the content box and border box? Actually, suppose you have page. Generally, this is the page. That is the page. And in the page, so you have some content here. So in the page, you have some content here. So usually content have some height and width. Usually contents have height and width. That means for the content, you have a width defined for the content. So for the content, we have width. So that means how much width and height you want for the content. And for that, you have height. So width and height is present for the content actually. So content usually have width and height, right? It is having width and height, right? So width, height will be there. Width and height will be there. Okay, height is, yeah, vertically height is defined for that. That is content. Now what happens is around the content. So you have the space around the content. The space around the content, whatever the space you have around the content. So this is called padding. That is padding. The space around the content is padding. And outside the padding, so you will have a border. Outside the padding, you will have a border actually. And this is considered as border. So this is considered as border. Outside the padding, you have a border. That is border actually, border. So that means outside the padding, you have the border. So this is the border. That is the border actually. And outside the border, usually you have a margin. This is the margin. So that is the content, that is the padding, that is the border and the margin. So this is the box model. So what is margin, what is padding, you have to understand it correctly. So this is how we define actually. Suppose you see here means how you can design this, how you can configure that content padding borders, how you manage it. Let's see. Usually, suppose I will keep some div and the class as some container. I'm using the class container. We have a div, some class as box. Okay. And in that, I will keep some paragraph. So we will add some paragraph there. So just copy and define some paragraph here. Okay. Now we are adding some paragraph. Fine. Now usually it looks in this way. So we have this. Okay. Now we need to apply. So suppose here I am defining. So body. So background color. I will put as some gray. Okay. Body background color is gray. Fine. Now what I will do is for the box. So I'm defining box. Okay, for the box, so we are defining background color as white. Box background color as white. You can see that is the background color white. Now observe carefully, the content is not having any space around it. If you want to adjust the space around it, you have to use padding. Padding is 30 pixel. Then you can see the space around the content. Now, if you want a border, so border box, you see border. So border red, I'm defining border red and the border some 2 pixel and red border. So, and solid, so I will give solid. So solid red color border. You see outside the padding, it will be there. If padding is not there, it will be around the content only. So outside the padding, border is present. So border I defined as suppose 12 pixel. The border will be 12 pixel. And outside the border, I want a space outside the border. Then you have to define margin. Margin 20 pixel. Then you can see outside the border space will come. Margin as 30 pixel. Outside the border space will come. So this is what actually we call the content padding and all. This is the box model. That means what is meant by padding, what is meant by margin, and what is meant by border. These are the things you need to understand. So in this design, actually, I will copy that and I will paste it here. Actually, in this design, so this is actually referred as this is content box. This is content box. This is the content box. So I am defining the content box. That is content box. That is the content box. And this is the padding box. This is the padding box. Padding box. And obviously this is the border. So that is the border box. Border box. And outside this is the margin. That is the margin. So this is actually called as box model. We call this as box model. That means what the content you need, what the padding you need, what the border you need. So you need to configure that. So that is how we need to define. So this is this is important in designing any structure. All these days we were using it, but you need to correctly understand what is meant by content, what is meant by padding, what is border, and what is margin. And this is the example. I will give you this screen design here. So let me keep this screen design. This is an example. Okay, so copy. And this is the box model actually. So this is the box model. So any CSS learner have to first start by learning about the box model. He need to know how to set the spaces, how do we set the margins, then he can design layouts perfectly. That means in CSS, first you have to understand the concept of how we can set margins, how we can set padding, and how we can set border. We need to know about that. And actually, margin is simple. Margin, how we can define the margin. So margin is nothing but it specifies the space around. It specifies the space around border, around border. And you can define margin. So you can define margin. So by using following properties. So you can define by using following properties. What are the properties? So you have property called margin. Actually, this margin property, it is a shorthand property. Shorthand, shorthand for all directions. For all directions. You can write margin top. You can write margin top. You can say margin bottom. You can say margin left. You can say margin right. Right. So you can apply individually. You can apply individually. So if you are configuring, if you are configuring the margins, and this is important. So that is simple, very simple, right? That means, see in the design, I said margin 30 means all directions 30. All directions it will be 30. So not like that. We can write in this way. So margin left is 10. So margin top is 100, and margin right is also 10 pixels. And you can see left and right will be 10 pixels, at the top it will be 100. So margin top is 50, then top only adjusted here. So it depends on how you are configuring. So that is, you can give margin, it is a shorthand way, it will apply all. Or you can define individually, left margin, right margin. That is simple. How much you want, you can configure. This is an example for that. Say padding also you can define in the same way. You can configure padding also in the same way. So how you set the padding? So padding also same. So padding is nothing but it defines a space. It defines a space around the content around the content. And this also you can define. So it uses the properties. What are the properties? So we have padding, and padding is a shorthand for all directions. You can set padding left, you can set padding left, so you can set padding right, so you can set padding top, and you can set padding bottom. Padding bottom you can keep in all directions. So that's your wish, right? Suppose you see the content here. So all directions is same. So for the paragraph. So better for paragraph, I will give justify, text align to justify. So justify alignment will be there. Okay. Padding, I can adjust like this. So padding top. So padding top, because I given padding means all directions. Padding top is 10 pixel. That means only top padding will be adjusted. You see only top padding, left, right, bottom not there. Only top 20. So it will apply only top padding space. So similarly, padding left 20 pixels. That means it will keep, so left padding 20 pixels, it will keep left. So no right and bottom padding is there. So you can give, so padding bottom as 10 pixel, and padding right as so some 10 pixel. You are applying the padding right and bottom, it will just apply small. It depends on, so whether you want to apply all or you want to apply for specific. So specific. That is how generally, so we need to define the effects. So we need to configure the effects. Now important is here. So one more option is border, how you can configure the border, how you can define the border. So configuring and defining the border. Actually border also same. So if you are defining the border have a lot of options now. So we can have border. Border we can apply in several ways. So many options are there for the borders. Generally, how you define the borders, how we can configure the borders. Actually, to apply the borders, so we have a lot of attributes. So we can apply simply, nothing complex, you can easily handle them. Actually, border has several options like, so the border property, so is defined by using border styles, border effects and all. Actually, the border is around the content or padding. CSS border can be defined with several effects, several effects, with several effects actually. So actually CSS border effects, you will have border color, you will have a border color. So border color. And when you are applying border color, again, you can apply so many, like you can use border top color. You can write like border bottom color. So you can use like border left color. You can use like border right color, like this. So that is border color. You can apply border style actually, border style. We can define border style. Border style actually, so border style is simple. Actually, border style you can define solid border, dotted border, dashed border, grooved border, like this groove border. So many ready-made border styles will be there. And these border styles also you can apply in several ways, like, so border left style, like border right style, like this. So right style, border right style. So border top style, So we have border bottom style. All these we can define. We can configure. So similarly, that is border color, border style. Same, we have a border. So we have border width, and border width also we can apply same. So we have like, so border top width. So we have like border bottom width. So we have like border left width. You can apply border right width. You can define the width also. You can even define, so you can even define border radius. So border radius can be defined with again several options, like we have border top left radius, like this. So we have like border top right radius. So we have like border bottom right radius. So we have like border bottom left radius. So much as there. So we will apply and see all these options. We can put radius. You can even put border image also. We can put a border image. We have a border image. Border image have attributes like, so we have border image outset, right? So we have like border image repeat, yeah, border image repeat. We have option like border image slice. I will show you those, how to deal with them. We have border image source, we have source. We have like border image width, we can keep width. These are all border related effects. So it's so many are there, but it's very simple to apply. For example, when you are applying border is the shorthand. So I can define like this. See here, when I am applying the border, I am writing here border width. Suppose border width 20 or 10 pixels. Now this will apply the width for all border style. So border style as solid. So it will apply 10 width solid. We will put here dotted, and it will apply dotted border. So we apply some dashed border. It will get the dashed border. We applied some groove. Groove is the border. It will apply groove border. Now it depends on how you want to configure. So double border, it will apply the double border. Now observe here, this is applying all, but you can write in several ways. Actually, you can write so like this. So this is border style, border width. Suppose I want left style different, right style different, then you can write like this. Border left style is dotted, and the border right style, border right style is double like this. That means left and right style, it will apply. You can see it will apply left style, right style. And border top style. So top style, so is again double. Okay, and border bottom style. So that is dotted like this. You can apply different. So how you want, so you can define the colors, you can apply. Suppose I want left color. So suppose I said border left color red, and border right color also red. Only left and right colors will be red. It depends on how you want to apply. You can apply all these and you can see how to handle them, how they work. That's, you can try. How to set border images. How do we deal with border images? That is important. That I will tell you in the next session, right? So tomorrow we will discuss about how do we keep border images. Then after understanding borders, display styles, some effects are there. We will discuss all the effects. Then we can design some real-time examples with whatever we have learned. That we will see in our next session, right? So tomorrow we will continue with that. Okay, right.